Have you ever had a move from hell? I did, and it's time to tell you the story.
That's what I expected.
What's good, my pack rats? Pac-Man Case here, guys. We are officially in the house. I am now in my new office, which barely has anything on the walls. And I want to talk to you guys about the move from hell. Literally, probably the worst move of my entire life. No joke, I actually have everything written out on my phone because of the chaos that ensued. I titled it Move from Hell, and I'm not joking. I even sent it to my wife and I said, hey, was I missing anything from this crazy move that we did? And she said, no, I'm pretty sure you got the entire nightmare in one. I will refer back to this just to make sure I'm explaining everything that happened, but guys, get ready for the crazy ride. It all started when we tried to get everything into one pod. We were hoping we could get the entire house moved into one pod. The pods cost about $6,000. So obviously a huge financial endeavor to get these pods going. We were trying to fit it all in the pod. So remember this, because in the story, it pertains. Little seed drop there. After we loaded the first pod, we thought we were close, but we weren't. We ended up with 3 more truckloads of stuff that were not going to fit into the original pod. So those 3 truckloads went to my parents and my cousin's house along with my truck that I was leaving in Washington because it had 200,000 miles on it. The air conditioning was going out, and I'd rather just sell it and invest into a new truck once we got to South Carolina. So that stuff stayed there for the time being. So we had to move quickly. The house that we sold, the people that bought it were not giving us a rent back. We did not have an opportunity to stay at the house. So it was crunch time. We had to load everything in as fast as we could. We had to sell a bunch of stuff off. And we were literally at the wire, as in we were giving keys to their real estate agent at 9 o'clock, right after we had cleaned up the last load. And we drove away and they moved into the house. It was absolutely wild. This is where things get fun. 3 days before we're supposed to move out of the house, my wife breaks her foot. Literally, I get a call while I'm trying to put the tow hook on our car that she had fallen in the garage and broke her last metatarsal in her foot. So we head off to the emergency room, spend about 4 hours there. She confirms that it's broken. We get it splinted up, and she's back to the house in crutches. Because we had to sell everything so quickly, we made decisions on things that we probably would have kept. Unfortunately, we sold couches, sold games, sold part of the collection. These are all things we probably could have taken with us if there was a little bit more planning in place, but without getting the ability to rent back, we had to move as quick as possible. We had a U-Haul and we had the Rogue. We have a Nissan Rogue. Those are the only things that were with us. It was gonna be me, my wife, my kids, the dog, and a U-Haul trailing behind us where we kept kind of just some of our valuables or anything that we thought was gonna be really important that we didn't wanna lose during the trip. So we weren't done until about 9 o'clock. I would say once we finally got to a park and ride, because we needed to be off the property, we roll into there, it's probably close to 10:30, and the battery on the car dies. Thank God my mom was there because she was able to give us a jump. I had the jumper cables in the truck that I had already dropped off at my cousin, so I had to buy jumper cables in the gas station, go jump the car, and get us back on track for us to head off. So it's 11 o'clock, 11 p.m., and we are driving from Washington to Las Vegas where we were gonna stay with my sister. We're on the road, it's getting really late. So it's about 2 o'clock in the morning. I pull off in the town of Yakima in Washington. We finally find a hotel. We get into the concierge office. We go to book the room. We put our suitcases right by our car, and my wife's suitcase gets stolen. Legit parking lot, someone jacks it. I had it there for about 30 seconds. I come back out, it is gone. The problem with the suitcase is it had her retainer in it, which was like for the Invisalign, which once that's gone, you're screwed. It had her contacts in it and all of her clothes, because everything that we were taking on the move was in the pod. For the rest of the trip, she was buying things on Amazon and Walmart just to be able to clothe herself on the daily. For most of this trip, gas is literally the highest it could have been. We're at $6, $6.50 a gallon in some of these places that we're stopping. So obviously it was already a hefty expense for us to drive, but on top of losing all of our stuff, it was just another one to add to the chaos that was this move. After Yakima, we completely ditch out of there. I was like, I'm not staying here. Our suitcase is stolen. So we rolled, I drove through the night, no sleep, and we ended up in Pendleton, Oregon. When we got there, we did not get a hotel room. We literally pulled into the Walmart parking lot and we slept for a couple hours just to make sure that everything was safe. It had been so chaotic up until that point. Driving through the night, we needed to just settle for a little bit. After that, we headed to Twin Falls. Lucky for us, nothing crazy happened in Twin Falls. Enjoyed the falls. It was a really cool experience with the kids, but we were not there for very long before we headed through the basin of Nevada and got ourselves towards Las Vegas, where my sister lives. So meanwhile, during this time in Nevada, there is a heat wave. There's a heat wave going across the entire country. We're at 107 degrees in the basin. The car is getting maybe 250 miles to the tank with the U-Haul dragging behind it. So when it was all said and done, the $6 gallon, I mean, we're at, $700, $800 just to get from Washington to Vegas. So we finally get to my sister's house. All is well. We're with family. Everything should be relaxed, but that heat wave is still there. So the next morning I have to unload the U-Haul because we have to drop it off at the facility so that you're not charged multiple times for it. And that's in about 103-degree weather that I am offloading this microwave freaking oven of a U-Haul, just ready to die, get everything in my sister's house, and we should be good to go. But this is where the curses begin. And when I say curses, I am not kidding. From the moment we got there, everything started breaking. So the first thing that she had go down was her outlets stopped working in both of the bathrooms for no reason at all. We had no idea what it was. The heat wave was out there. We figured maybe that was it. We ended up painting some rooms. Maybe we caused some moisture. But the outlets started going out, so we had no lights, no fans in the bathrooms. Her dryer goes out. So luckily for us, there's a heat wave. So we just threw the clothes outside to dry, and they dried in about 20 minutes out in that super dry Vegas heat. And so that was okay. After that, she has a pipe burst in her bathroom. So down the wall, I can hear water trickling. She was having a little bit of issues with it, and it just went full burst while we were there. We're also celebrating my nephew's birthday, and we ended up going to a skating rink, which I should never be on skates. I ate shit in the middle of the rink, sprained my freaking wrist, and so my wife has a broken foot, I have a sprained wrist, and it was just a blast. Things were awesome with a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, so you can just imagine how fun that was. And then to top off everything, her air conditioner goes out in this heat wave. Not to mention, my children have spent majority of the time destroying, breaking, eating, dropping yogurt places, everything that you can think of. I have to say thank you to my sister because you were great at hospitality with us being a crazy family at your house. So I appreciate it. Guys, we headed out of Las Vegas, headed to Arizona, not very far, about a 6-hour drive so that we could go visit my in-laws. They let us stay there for about 10 days, give my sister some reprieve, but unfortunately the curses kind of came with us. We get to my in-laws house and we find out that our credit card had been stolen. So because our credit card was stolen, everything that we had connected to that card, the pods, any couches or furniture that we were trying to pay for the new house, they all were getting declined, delayed, or changed. So that was a nightmare. Our bank was still in Washington, so to get a new card, you would have to go into a branch, which did not exist out in Arizona. So we were kind of stuck with no credit card, 6-gallon gas, as well as needing food and anything else for the kids. And the battery on the car continues to give me problems, so I needed to get that fixed. Again, with no credit card. So we're at my wife's parents' house. It's kind of a small area. We've got a knee scooter and crutches because my wife still has her broken leg. The kids are still causing messes and destroying everything. They leave food out on the porch in Arizona, and we wake up the next day to an ant infestation where my father-in-law literally had to lay down a bunch of traps and clean everything up, and it was very embarrassing. But let's just say, like, that was kind of the worst that happened in Arizona, aside from the credit card getting stolen, which was really nice. The problem is that getting a new card in time before we were gonna leave the house, things were kind of really intense. We weren't sure if we were gonna get one. It got there literally 2 hours before we were supposed to leave. We were going back to Vegas to pick up our stuff at my sister's house and take the actual trip to South Carolina. We ended up staying in Las Vegas and Arizona for about 7 weeks because the people that bought the house we're currently in needed a rent back for almost 7 weeks, and because we're cool people, we said yes, but then caused us all of this grief. So maybe that's just a lesson to us. Next time, just be like, sorry, get out of there. I don't want all of this stuff to happen to me. We still had stuff sitting in Washington, those 3 truckloads that we were never able to get. So we ended up actually getting a second pod, which was almost $4,000. And we had our family load that up and ship that to us. Unfortunately, if we would have known that, we would have kept a lot of the furniture and games and collection stuff because there was tons of room in that pod. So lesson learned, always get 2 pods, 1 will never be enough. So you would think that everything was fine because we were already cursed. We already had the worst of the worst happen to us. But then we headed off to Albuquerque, New Mexico, which was our first stop after an 8-hour drive. Once we got there, everything was okay other than I sliced my leg open on the pull-out mattress frame.
Dog-kissing, brainless, dickless, hopeless, heartless, fat-ass, bug-eyed, stiff-legged.
That's it. Still have the scar to prove it. It's been like 5 or 6 weeks and I still have a huge gash there. That was the worst thing that happened there. So the pods are getting delivered to the new house in about a week. We have about a week's travel with the kids across country down on the southern part of the United States. And we keep getting calls and emails that the pods are canceled because the payment is not updating. We probably updated the payment about 3 or 4 times. They would promise us that it was done. It wasn't. So they kept canceling our pod deliveries, which basically had our entire life in it that we needed there when we got to South Carolina. We eventually got it all squared away, but it was just something to add to the chaos as we were heading across country. The next spot that we stopped is Oklahoma City. We ended up crashing there. Not crashing, actually sleeping. We were tired. And I spilled the dog food all over the ground. Literally, it looked like I had spilt the entire factory of kibbles and bits around the car, which is fantastic. Did I not mention already that we were taking this entire trip with a 60-pound shepherd mix? And let's just say he made life a little bit hard at times while we were getting there. After Oklahoma, we head off to Jackson, Mississippi, one of our final stops before we get to South Carolina, and the car battery dies again. Thankfully, we're in the South where people are a little bit nicer. We get one last jump. At this point, I knew something was wrong with the battery and I needed to get it taken care of, but we wanted to get to the house. So we jump back in the car for South Carolina, another 8-hour drive, $6 gas later. We've got a broken foot, a scarred leg, grumpy kids, mad dog, and everything you can think of under the sun on our backs, from credit cards being stolen to suitcases being stolen to just the chaos of moving across country. The curse is coming with us, with ants to pipes bursting to no dryer, just literally absolute chaos. We finally get to South Carolina, where we would call home sweet home. The look on my wife's face, how happy she was, it felt like everything disappeared in the chaos. And we only had about 2 hours of peacefulness before we realized that we ordered 2 washers, the couches were delayed, the beds were delayed, the AC unit in the bottom floor was going out, and the TVs didn't make it once the pods arrived. We had a couple busted, broken televisions that just got pierced during the crazy move. But the best part of all, none of my video game collection was touched, nor destroyed, nor mutilated in the process, which I think we gotta chalk that up to a win. So guys, I would say the moral of the story is just be ready for chaos when you do a move of that magnitude. Again, we moved from Washington all the way to South Carolina with stops in Las Vegas, as well as Tucson, Arizona, and it did not come without its challenges, but we are here. We are now in the present. I am in the new office, which I am excited to start some room tours for you guys. We've got some teaser trailers on my shorts, as well as a whole modern game room. It's a huge gaming basement that I'm excited to show you guys, but I wanted to tell you the story of the move first. So thank you guys for listening. If you like my silly content, you like what I got going on, hit the subscribe button for a guy that had the worst trip ever, and I will catch you guys on the next Pac-Man creation because I'm excited to start making content again. All right, guys, peace.
Hey, I actually forgot to let you know that I got an eye infection. The lock on our pod got stuck, so we literally had to rip that off, and my wife crashed into the mailbox.